Welcome to episode 7 of Paranormal Unwrapped with Krista Raisa and Jack Roth. Krista is a channel for the Orion Council, teacher, and artist. Jack is an investigative journalist, author, and award-winning filmmaker. In this segment, we're discussing soul family, what it is, and how to identify them if possible. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Krista, how are you?
My head is full of ideas about what this topic is, and thank goodness you're an expert on it.
I'm not an expert on it. I wish I was an expert on it, but you know what? This is the coolest. This is one of the coolest things we're going to talk about. So we will revisit this in many shapes and forms because there's we're just going to talk a little bit about it today, but there's so much. But you actually, and which you're always really good at, you research some interesting numbers you were telling me before, but go ahead, tell how does we're talking about soul families, because we were talking about vibration and frequency last time, and it led to someone asking a question about soul families and being on the same vibrational frequencies and all that. So that's why we say, well, we might as well just continue the discussion and go down this road with it. So yeah, I mean, what were you thinking when someone says to you, gee, Krista, who's my soul family? How do I know who my soul family is? How do I know who my soulmate is? How do I know who my soul group is? What do you think? What do you tell people? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. The best information I got from a book called About Ascension, written by Joshua David Stone, PhD. He says in there, he's a spiritual leader who's passed away. It was big in the 80s. And he says, I have this uncanny gift to explain these complex topics, for instance, from Hinduism, in a very simplified way. And he's able to retain them and give them to us in these Western countries in a way that is applicable. So he starts us off with 12 people. And according to his life's research, we normally don't incarnate with the other 11 people in our soul group. He's calling this a soul group. Why? It's because they could be on another planet. So that's a really intimate number. Like, Jesus Christ had these 12 disciples. I mean, maybe he got lucky, but supposedly when you're ascending, which is the whole message that the Orion Council keeps talking about. It's why I taught an online course called Ascension 101. I went to, what the heck is this ascension? And so if you want to know more about that, you guys click the Teachable link below. But basically, if you're doing your spiritual development, you can raise up the frequency or whatever vibration of your whole group to take it to the next dimension. One person, he says, can do that for all of them. So which is why doing your own spiritual work is so necessary. But then we have what's called a monad, and Val Valerian had a book with all these jellyfish on the cover. I'm like, what the heck is that? And he's talking, it's like this $300 book teaching us about this stuff. And the monad, Joshua David says, it's 12 times 12. So when people are obsessed with this number, the 144,000, but the 12 times 12 is 144, create a monad. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's when we blend consciousness with people or something, like we become some sort of transformer. We all, like all the Power Rangers, combine into this one megalodon. The language changes, which I'll just hand it over to you before I talk about soulmates and Greek love, because that's how I'm going about identifying. How do you see what pictures come up in your mind when someone says soul family?
Well, that's a great question, because I think when you first hear about it, and you can read a book about Buddhism, or you can read a book about reincarnation, and then you start understanding past lives and souls reincarnating and how they reincarnate, and in this world we live in right now, that we have things such as soul groups, soulmates, soul agreements, right? You have all these phrases, these terms, and at first you're like, everyone knows, I found my soulmate, and they think that's the person that one person that you are going to, the love of your life, that's your soulmate. But it's more complicated than that. And as you get older and you go through life and you realize, well, I've been through my life, and there's soulmates. Yeah, I think people have different soulmates for different reasons, because there's different kinds of love, and there's different kinds of inspiration that you get from other people. But there's also the idea of life partners, right? That a life partner is someone that you're actually going to go through a lot of your life with, and you're going to learn from each other. But what's really interesting about Soul Group, and I'm going to share this with you, Krista, and I don't share it with many people, but it's a really interesting little thing that happened to me. So about 10 years ago or so, and I just started getting into this. We started with the Stan Romanek documentary and all that. And I couldn't help think that, and I live in Florida. And I like Florida. I was pretty much raised here. I wasn't born here, but there'll always be a place in my heart for Florida. But it's not really where I kind of fell in love with New Mexico and the Southwest when I went out there. And I feel like that's where my heart is. In a way, that's where my soul is, right? So you have these inklings, you have these feelings inside that you're trying to describe why you're feeling that way, right? But I felt for a long time that somehow I made a wrong turn. Not a wrong turn, maybe. Let's say that's a pretty good way to describe it, though, and that I was separated somehow from the rest of my soul group. That the soul agreement I made, that there was a sense of purpose that I wasn't fulfilling, and that I felt that loneliness. I felt that I need to be connected with more of my soul group, and I started to have dreams. I started to have these weird dreams about trying to find my soul group, trying to find these group of people that I was so close with and so tight with. And I'd always had a lot of friends growing up, and I never had a problem with any of that and all of that. I mean, whatever. But this was different. And then when I really started to do this work more and more, it's changed now. I feel like I am starting to meet some of these people that I was supposed to meet, that I'm supposed to meet in this lifetime, that I'm supposed to connect with in this lifetime. And you just feel it. It just feels right. There's an intuition that, it's like, hey, you meet someone. We had Miguel Mendonça on in our live on our tape show. Well, he's one of those people we met, and we were like, all right, we're soul brothers, period. It was like immediate, right?
Yeah.
And to an extent, like, you have with different people, like with you and I, it's like, oh, we connect. So it's like, cool, let's do a show together. It just happens like that. But I don't know if there's a way for people to kind of navigate the people that they know in their lifetimes and how to put kind of these labels on them of, oh, this is part of my soul family. I mean, when you think of soul family, what do you think of? Do you think of a nuclear family? What do you think of?
I like how you're bringing in this earthly perspective because I'm seeing it from a cosmic perspective. I interviewed Sandra Frazier in my spiritual teachers playlist on this channel, and she had a workshop where she said, if you want to know if you're a star seed, ask your body. If you want to know you're an earth seed, ask your body. So you stand up, and if your body sways more forward, you're a star seed. If it sways more back, you're an earth seed. And she explained that it's very important. And this is coming from an elder in our community, so I was ears perked. She said, if you're a star seed, you need to connect to your star family, and that means your cosmic extraterrestrial family. If you're from Earth, is you need to connect to extraterrestrials. So I've been trying to figure out what that meant, because a lot of the star seeds say they feel really lonely. And in Michael Newton's 1980s hypnosis work, with one of the early clients that he regressed, said she figured out why she felt so alone, and it's because her soul family were on other planets. So God help these people. But the Orion Council explains soulmates. I don't know if it's the same thing, but soulmates as being from the same spark. This is a quote from my Instagram. Soulmates are of the same spark since the very beginning. They contain the same vibration, like siblings from the same family. There's that vibration again. They have a similar mission and task. Soulmates are here to rekindle the ascension program. To help facilitate ascension, you need your soulmates. They represent free-minded group energies. The thing with this is starseeds, for example, have been born around the planet in these very specific grid points, because ascension is supposed to wake the planet up. And one of my teachers, Parameswaran Craig Hamilton Parker, explains in the book What to Do When You're Dead, is that he explains reincarnation and that we barely remember our last past life, because if we did remember it, we become clan-like. That's a little, this is going a little bit off in a tangent, but if you think about it, we're only given so much access to this information. So the whole game is, how much do you know? How much, and how do you know that that's the truth? So I guess, would you say it's a feeling that we get when we have with someone? Like, what is that resonance? Like, what is that vibe that you just can't, is it a type of Greek love? Is it like manic obsessive love? Is it lusty? Is it a best friend vibe? Or what is that, that you just can't get them out of your mind, or you just feel your heart's bursting when you connect with them? What is that?
Yeah. And it could be, because it could be all those things. It can be different types of connection, right? Like you can have this romantic kind of feeling towards someone you meet, and you can have this other type of connection to someone you meet. And here's where people see, it's interesting because I am looking at this from an earthly perspective, because I've researched it from an earthly perspective of someone who's alive, living on this planet, and is trying to figure out, well, what does it all mean? Right? I'm living here right now. So do I have soulmates and soul group members incarnated with me here right now? And if so, who are they? But it's intuitive. So like you say, he's my best friend from high school. Well, yeah, it's absolutely one of your soul group. You just know it is. You look back and you say, well, I've been madly in love with 4 people in my entire life. I can go through the different relationships. Well, they're probably part of your soul group as well. And, but here's what people don't get. And it's something that's talked about in all these books on reincarnation and soul growth and all that stuff that's been written. Not all members of your soul group are there to make you feel good. So like, and this is the purpose of a soul group is to help you grow spiritually. So a lot of that is negative. A lot of that is challenging the shit out of you. I mean, really challenging you, right? Or, that person, that relationship you had that was just constantly fighting, and it was horrible. And right. And it ended in divorce, or it ended in a breakup, and you couldn't there was this major attraction, but at the same time, it was a horrendous experience. Well, guess what? That person was part of your soul group. They helped you grow, and they help you grow. It could have been a relationship you never want to have again as long as you live. But if it helped you grow, then that person was probably part of your soul group. I mean, isn't that weird?
I totally get what you're talking. I totally get what you're talking about. People on the internet are calling this a karmic relationship, but they're not calling it soulmate. So maybe this is just all about language.
Well, the karmic relationship. I love that. Phrase, because you're right. I think it is karmic. I think because there's stuff in the past. Let's say we live past lives together. Well, what if in that past life you were a judge who convicted the other person of being a witch and burned them at the stake? So then now you're together in this lifetime, and you have some karmic stuff you need to work out, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, like what is that relationship?
Well, what is that relationship right now, right? Like,
is that a relationship? Right.
I just have this desire to burn you in this because to get you back for what you did to me in the 1600s. I mean, if you think about all of this, you talked to me and you made me realize more about Akashic records and this knowledge of everything, right? Being in one place, and we all have access to that knowledge. But if we live, I guess my question to you would be, because I have a hard time with this. I'm still trying. I'm doing a lot of research, but I have a lot more questions than I will ever have answers. When people come to you, and they come to you for advice. They come to you, and you're getting these readings, and you're channeling, right? You're channeling this information. Is there a connect between that ethereal world and this world we live in, on how to kind of, advice on how to navigate that kind of thing?
Yeah. So that's the whole question of access comes up every time. There's a guy, who shall not be named. I call him Billy in my book Starseed Survival. So Billy will be at the movie theater and he'll be messaging 20 chicks on his phone. And he tells chick number one, you know, I love you forever, baby. And then he swipes left or whatever. And he's, you know, and these women are getting pissed. Like, you promised your undying love to me. Like, now you ghosted me. You're dating 5 other chicks. Like, why don't you, whatever. So it's a lot. I count as like 27 women have an issue with Billy. And because they all told me, right? And in Letters from the Afterlife, this problem presented itself in the astral plane. So when we're talking about ghosts and loved ones, they go into they're coming from the next dimension called the astral plane. And in that dimension, in Letters from the Afterlife, written in 1904, a judge is using a lot of his energy to communicate through Elsa Barker through automatic writing. And he's still learning in the next realm. He's still himself learning. He's just in a different form. And he's a judge you mentioned a judge. He's a judge when he was in this incarnation in the 1800s. And in the afterlife, people still come to him to help solve problems. And 2 women and a man come up to him. And the story goes like this. So wife number 1 dies. Husband is still alive. Husband remarries wife number 2. He has a lot of affection towards wife number 2. Now they're all dead in the afterlife, in the next realm. And the women are following him around. And they're bickering. So they come up to this judge, like, help us with this issue. So what's the issue? Well, apparently husband had promised wife number 1 that he's going to meet her in the afterlife. And sure enough, they meet. And he has affection. He has a deep love for wife number 1 because they spent almost a whole life together. But wife number 2 wants a piece of the pie, and he is more inclined to wife number 2. So because it's a new thing. So they're all together, and the judge says to them, in heaven, he quotes Jesus or something. He's like, in heaven, be as thou will, like angels. Then all 3 walk away totally baffled. They're like, what the heck does that mean? and so like, what is the problem? Well, the thing is, the husband wanted his own space. He like had enough of them following him around in the afterlife.
That is really interesting.
Isn't that fascinating? So if this is true, right? Because we want to give people their free will to believe whatever they want. If this is true, that your obsessive relationships can continue into the next realm, my question is, when you reincarnate on Earth, are they going to come back? You know, who are they going to be? And will that obsession or whatever they call it, relationship attachment, does that continue too? I find that I found that like God's humor is like, okay, you're going to come back as my neighbor, or we're going to come back as you're going to be my school friend.
Right. And that it is kind of like an inside joke, like, right, the ultimate karmic joke. But like, look, I think in the end, because we're running out of time and there's a lot we didn't get to, but what I think in the end, what's important to understand is that this is part of the mystery of being alive, right? And it's part of the beauty of it. If you think about, you shouldn't use this to guide every decision you make, but it could make you understand things in your life a little better. Old relationships that didn't go well, or family relationships. There's always, the family's part of a soul group, right? Brothers, sisters, mom, dad. And you know how that can be real messy, but that's again to help you grow, right? To help you grow in your soul growth. So that's why it's messy. But, you know, I think the important thing is, and I've been told this, in the end, we're all together anyway. We always wound up being together back in that spiritual realm. And then we decide, well, let's go back and do this, or I'm going to go to this planet and do this. But it's all okay, because in the end, souls and spirit don't die. We just go on, and we keep learning and learning and growing and growing. So I think that's the message I would give to people. But we are going to talk about this more, right, Krista? I mean, definitely. This is good stuff. Yeah.
This is so good. And you guys have something to say about this. How do you guys comment in the chat? How do you identify someone from your soul family? And when you feel someone's your soul family, what are those vibes? You know, do you have to do something about it? Do you have to take action on your feelings? Do you chase past lives that were already over and done with? And what's the sort of dharma and universal structure? So it's been great chatting with you. Thanks so much. Don't forget to check out J3 Films, Extraordinary The Seeding. #2 just came out. I'm Krista Raisa. This is Jack Roth. Thanks for being with us, and see you in the next episode.